This current campaign, which surrounds the postal vote dealing with same-sex marriage, is something of huge significance which many people don't quite seem to grasp in all of its ramifications. This is not just a question of whether a certain group of people will be allowed to marry. It's a question about what a human being is, what society is, what culture and what civilization is. The Abrahamic tradition, that is to say, the tradition which we have received, coming down through millennia, which the major world religions and the major cultures and civilizations of the world have embraced and which they have taken to be their own backbone, is a tradition which says that the human being regulates impulse in accordance with a moral compass. That moral compass was given by the Creator and has been transmitted through the great faith traditions and been embodied in the laws, the traditions, the cultures that we have received. It says that the human being doesn't define him or herself or society or culture by personal desire, by personal feelings, but rather it's the other way around. Feelings, urges, impulses need to fit into the framework of a higher moral compass. That moral compass is ultimately comes from a source higher than us. And that's what the human being says when we refer to the concept of the human soul or the human conscience. There's an apprehension of something bigger than ourselves, bigger than our own desires, wishes and urges. Now, the contemporary movement, which is pushing for same-sex marriage, in fact is articulating one aspect of a comprehensive philosophy which wants to overthrow this basic notion. It wants to say that what defines the person is the impulse, is the desire, the momentary self-identification. And therefore, we find that this movement, in fact, readily and quickly merges into a concept of ultimate gender fluidity. The person can ascribe to him or herself any of a multitude of identities, and it's proposed that the human being should be able actually physically to alter him or herself in order to actualize these different identities. And this is a doctrine which is now being played out in schools. And our fear is that were same-sex marriage to be implemented, this would be a movement which would gain a whole new power and domination of itself. And what it does is it comes to children at the most suggestible and the most vulnerable state of their growth and their personality formation. And it preys on their as yet fluid identity, which is natural in a child who is being socialized into male or female roles. And it urges the child to embrace a concept of fluid identity. This is something, in fact, which is very dangerous, because it is not only is it going to produce all kinds of consequences for society as a whole, it will overturn so many of the structures which we have, the received structure of the family, all of the mechanisms of psychological stability, all of the roles and the purposes which our Creator, which our higher moral compass sets for us. These are due to be overturned completely by this ideology. And so the whole concept of same-sex marriage is just one species. It is, if you like, it is the bulkhead. It is the first drive of an ideology which wants to go far beyond this, which wants to say that there is no such thing as male, no such thing as female, no such thing as parent, no such thing as child, no such thing as family. That all social institutions and all the dimensions of human personality will now become will now enter into a flux of mutating self-determination from moment to moment. This is, not only is this a recipe for personal psychological instability and for social decay, it's also it also signifies a forfeiture of the most fundamental principles of our culture and our beliefs. And so this is something, therefore, which we have to begin to recognise and understand the broader package of which this is simply a sampler. So please remember that this is about the redefinition of the human being with endless, unknown and hazardous possibilities.